I have a spinner that I use with the kids that I teach, and I'm going to share that with you. It's really simple and real easy to find. I got mine from the dollar store. In fact, it's so simple that probably once I show it to you, a lot of people will stop watching this video. So to help entice you to want to keep watching, I'm going to share like 12 ways that you could use a spinner in your class. All right, you ready? Here is the spinner. That's right, it's one of those wind spinners that you find at the dollar store. On mine, I just used some puffy paint to put some points on each one of the pedals. You could also use a marker. My original idea was to spin it and have an arrow down here and let the kids spin it, and then wherever it stopped, that's how many points they would get. But it took forever for the thing to stop spinning. And sometimes because one of them might be heavier than the others, that one always ends up at the bottom. So to change that, what I do is I have the kids spin it and then just grab one of the pedals. And whichever one they grab, that's how many points they get. Ooh, 200. Very exciting. So that's one way to do it. But with all the ideas of how to use a spinner, you probably don't want that many spinners sitting around your classroom waiting to be used. So here's a way to use one spinner in lots of different ways. I just took one of these things and put some clothespins on it. And you can clothespin some cardstock or post-it notes or something on there for each of the different categories that you want to use. Then have the kids spin it and stop it. Or with the clothespins on here, you can actually spin it, take like a 3x5 card. Ooh, it has a cool sound, and it just points at whatever one is the winner there. So that's another way to do it. So you can put the categories on the things, or another way to do it is just have a chart that says what each one of the colors could mean, whether it be points or an activity or something like that. So each one of the colors can mean something. So here's some ways that you can use these in your classroom. If you're memorize something, like in my clubs, in classes, we memorize Bible verses. So you could choose what color the kids are going to erase from a whiteboard. I put a Bible verse in lots of different colors on the whiteboard. And then when the kids pick a color, we can erase one of the words that's that color. For yellow, I just underlined it in yellow because yellow is really hard to read on a whiteboard. Another thing you could do is spin to see who's going to say the verse. Like you could pick, okay, everyone who's wearing purple, stand up and say the verse. Or everyone who's wearing blue, like blue jeans or blue on your shoes or whatever. Anybody who's wearing blue, stand up and say the verse. Or here's another one where you are spinning to see what activity you're going to do while you recite the verse. So let's see, we're all going to clap while we say the verse, or we're all going to spin in a circle while we say the verse. So just a way to make it a little more random, and kids can have a little fun with that. For a review game, you can use the one that I showed you at the beginning where you're spinning and seeing how many points you get for your team. This is where you're reviewing a lesson or a Bible lesson that you've just taught. You put the kids onto two different teams, and when the child answers the question correctly, they get to come up and spin and see how many points their team gets. For another layer of fun, you can also have a second spinner that has give and keep. I have that alternated all the way around here. If they spin and they get the word keep, that means they get to keep the points that they just spun for their team. If they choose give, then they're going to give those points to the other team. So it just adds another layer of something to cheer about and having fun. Another way you could do it is to have points on lots of the pedals, but one of them says 0. So they get to spin and get points. Oh, 600. They can choose to keep their 600 or choose to spin again and get more points. And they can get as many points as they want, but if they get that 0, then they lose all the points that they just got from spinning. So they have to decide if they're going to keep spinning or if they're going to stop. It's a pretty fun game. Another way you could play this is you could have different prizes that they could win. If you had 6 different little candies they could choose from, they could spin and see which prize they get if they're answered correctly or if they have done a great job during the day. Another way to use these points is to use it for sort of like a Wheel of Fortune game. Like you have a mystery phrase that has something to do with the lesson that you taught. It's all just in dashes like in Hangman. And then have the kids, if they answer a question right, they get to spin the wheel and see how many points their letter is going to be worth. Then they choose a letter, like say they choose the letter A, and if that's in the phrase, they get that many points. If it's in there more than once, like if it's in there 3 times, then they would get 3 times however many points they spun. Another fun thing you could do is to play it like a human board game, like kind of like Candyland, or like another game with, I just use paper plates upside down and have one kid from each team stand at the beginning, and then you can spin the spinner and see how many plates they get to move forward, how many spaces. Or if it's more like Candyland where there's lots of different colors of the paper plates, then whatever color they choose, they get to move to that color, just like Candyland. All right, another thing you can do is choose to spin a helper. If you have a special job in your class, you can write the different names of the kids on different clothespins, and you can put more than one clothespin on each one of these petals, and spin it and try and space them out so that it's going to be even, and spin it and then see where it's going to land, and that child can be your helper. If you have a long activity like a Bible story, another long lesson that you're teaching, and you need them to move a little bit, you can have 6 different things that they could do that is a movement sort of a thing, and have the kids come up and spin it to see what they're going to do. One more contest you can do is, as kids are coming in and they've done their homework or they've done something that they needed to do for that day, you can let them spin a certain number of times, and just let them spin the wheel and see where it lands, and then write down what color they got. So George picked green. All right. And you're going to let them spin more than once and get more than one color. And then during the day, as they're doing a great job, they might get to spin one more time. And then at the end of the day, you spin the wheel, and whichever color the teacher chooses, that's going to be the winning color of the day. And all the kids who chose the same color as you can get a special prize, usually something really small, on their way out as kind of an additional incentive. All right, so there you go. I hope that's some fun ideas of how to use a real cheap and easy to find spinner.